Anyway, welcome you guys. It's great to see you. Waiting for Miguel to get here. Um, we started Mondays with Miguel last week, and we do have our regular um, NFT filmmaker squad on Wednesdays from 1 to 3. So this week is going to be super cool, as it is every week. But anyway, thanks guys for coming in. We'll wait for Miguel to get here, and then he can um, bring up his guest today and get things started. If you're new, if you've not come through the NFT Filmmaker Squad, we have been holding spaces. It started on Clubhouse, but for a year now, and every Wednesday from 1 to 3, and now Mondays with Miguel, and getting ready to add another day coming soon. Um, but if you don't know, we have a community that we've been building over in Discord together, and you can find that in my link tree. And all right, Miguel's here, fabulous. And yeah, we encourage you to come in and join the community. It's getting to be a lot of fun there. I'm gonna give Miguel a little co-host power here. And anyway,
Hey,
hey, welcome. Good morning or good
morning.
afternoon.
Thank you for the power. I'm already feeling it.
So I did just do a very quick, setup of the room just because we were recording, and but if you just want to bring your people up and get started, I'm super happy to give you your power on the Monday.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I'm inviting people up to speak, and we'll give them the floor in a second.
Cool.
I guess you already kind of introduced who we are and what we're doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it really quickly again, and then if you need me, I'll be here. But this is your baby, so welcome, you guys. I see some of the squads in here already, and it's nice to see our regulars. But if you're new, we're the NFT Filmmaker Squad. We've been meeting for a year, building this ecosystem out, creating a space for filmmakers together as a community. We now have spaces on Mondays with Miguel, and we have a regular space on Wednesdays with me and some of the other squad members. And yeah, we also have Discord, so please come in and join the community. We're slowly but surely really making change here in the filmmaking space, and so it's been a lot of fun, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see the energy that Miguel brings, and also all the new information and meeting all the new filmmakers. So with that, I'm going to step back. If you need me, I'll be here. I'll be with you guys, and yeah, have fun.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jordan, and thanks for the opportunity to host these wonderful people today. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's great to be here. I see a lot of filmmakers in the room, which fills me with joy because it's so exciting to see the meteoric rise that Web3 filmmaking has been having in the last few weeks. So that's great. In case anyone here doesn't know me, just a very brief introduction. I am Miguel. I'm a filmmaker from Barcelona, Spain. I'm based in London, and I am working on my own Web3 film project called CALLADITA, which is an NFT collection dropping in a few weeks that is intended to fundraise my first feature film, CALLADITA, and as brief as I wanted to make it. So I want to introduce some of our guests here today. We want this to be an open discussion. So I invited up a few people that I talked to before, who I wanted them to introduce the project. But after they have their chance to introduce their projects, because I see a lot of filmmakers, please request to speak, and we'll invite you guys up when we can. And we would love to hear from a lot of you and to have a very open discussion about the future of cinema via Web3 and NFTs. So, Niels and Huey, why don't you guys start and tell us a bit about NFT studios and what you're doing?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us, Miguel. We really appreciate it. 1 second, sorry, I'm just in the car. So yeah, NFT Studios was kind of the idea was kind of brought up in the summer between myself and Niels. We were sat down in London, and Niels was kind of talking a lot about difficulties in funding films and difficulties in getting the right stories produced into film. So, like, I've been in the NFT space since the beginning of last year, and I said that there's definitely a solution here, and there's definitely a community there. And kind of educated Niels on NFTs and on a possible DAO structure. And Niels found that very relative, to what he wanted to do and his ambitions within the financing space. So you've really taken it in your stride, Niels, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks, Miguel, for having us. I'm a big fan of your project and your vision here as well. And yes, I've been given a very, very good tutorial about this community, and the more I know from Huey and his partners and people that I've met now in this space, the more excited that I am about the opportunity to do something very special, particularly for independent filmmaking in general. And so I've operated in Hollywood for, well, 20 odd years. I'm that old. First in fashion and now 15 years in film. And it's getting increasingly difficult to get quality movies made. And when Huey presented the NFT community to me, I thought this could be a match made in heaven between filmmakers, particularly of a quality kind, and connect them directly with a community of people that are interested in arts already and in expression of whatever form that may be, whether that's through music, art, film, and whatever. So, and the more I learn, the more excited I am. And now I've also got myself a gutter cat. So I'm a gutter cat now, which, gave me huge points with my daughter now. So I'm almost cool for my teenage daughter. So it's a match made in heaven. Yes, I'm very happy. Mhm.
The way we're structuring this is at the DAO. There's going to be a token allocation in the DAO, and that is an allocation specifically for talent. When you're talking about producers, directors, actors. So we really want to bring in as much as we can from Hollywood and around the world, or people in this space, and kind of vest them with tokens in such a way that they're interested to contribute to like this creative collective that we're building.
That's great, Huey. Thank you. And welcome to the gang, Niels. I'm also part of the Pater gang, so excited to have you.
Thank you.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, what is very exciting is what I really like about how the space right now is that there are projects of very different sizes in the film NFT space, and that's very exciting because it feels like we're starting to infiltrate all of the different levels of the industry, right? I've seen projects for 50 million, desert movies, and I've seen animation projects, and there are, micro budget features like mine. There are short films like First Flights, who are here also feel welcome. There's projects like yours, Niels, which is a sustainable DAO studio to make, I think for now at least, smaller films, but still a lot bigger than CALLADITA. So yeah, very exciting stuff. But by the way, can you speak about that for a second, Niels? Because I've seen all the info about Having a Prayer, which is your first film. But what's the 5 or 10 year plan? What sizes or kinds of movies do you envision NFT studios could be making in the future?
Well, the soft spot, to be honest, for every independent movie that actually ends up making money and being very successful is that range sort of between the $10 million to $20 million range. Traditionally, at least in the good old days, quote unquote, those movies would end up making their money back plus 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 over time. And it's a budget size that has been completely abandoned by the studios because simply their overheads are too big now, like Warner Brothers or Paramount or whatever, to facilitate the necessary space and resources for these kind of movies. They need to focus on $100 million plus films like Marvel stuff or Mission Impossible franchises. So there's been left a huge void, particularly in Hollywood, for that era, for that area of budget. And I've done multiple films in that budget size, and today, unfortunately, the road to get that finance goes through so many hurdles, which not least is a pre-sales, foreign sales component to it. And if you don't get pre-sales on a movie that's not even done yet, you're going to struggle really hard. And then even so, you got to come back to America to get domestic distribution, which at least in the current format, is either Netflix, Amazon, Apple, or the traditional studios, or an independent. And that whole patchwork is very, very tricky these days for anything above, say, $1 million or $2 million independent, which is a great space to be in as well. But that's not where we're going to focus in NFT studios. Our focus is going to be sort of in the $10 million plus range, simply because we want it scaled to the size that we can attract the talent that we want, both from an acting, writing, and directing perspective. Could we in the future see ourselves do things that are $50 million plus? Sure, but this is also, but this is, we come out with a wing and a prayer because it's manageable. It's a project that's ready to go. It's about a $10 million budget. And so that's the first. We have others in the pipeline already, and we've been offered amazing things at a higher budget. So sure, we can, but it also depends a little bit about how well we can build this community around us, because clearly I'm just one producer, and there's many other producers that are coming in with their material now. We really do want to create a mini studio, right? But a democratized studio in which our DAO gets to choose which projects are relevant to us. So we do not want to be limited and saying, oh, we only going to do this kind of genre or this kind of budget or this kind of thing. But we just know where there's a big gap in the market right now for great material that's not getting made. And that is sort of in that sort of $15 million mark to $20 million mark. That's a really good spot for us. Sorry to be so long, but I just wanted to be precise.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Hugh, is there anything you'd like to add before I move on to our next guest?
No, I think Neil's really hit that nail on the head. Now we're making sure we have the structure in place to be able to attract the talent and to be able to make it, worthwhile, long-lasting community. And that's kind of what we're working on at the moment. And we're going to put in a white paper out at some point in the near future that everyone can have a scan through.
Brilliant, thank you. So everyone follow Huey and Niels and NFT Studios if you're interested in this very exciting project to bring indie Hollywood, Web3 into indie Hollywood, I would say, rather than the other way around, and make fantastic movies via the power of the community.
Great, Miguel. Thank you very much for having us. Unfortunately, I had to jump on a call with an agent, and with the agents, if you're late, they're going to punish you somehow with the higher fee or something. So, but thanks for having us, Miguel. It's really a pleasure knowing you, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Of course, good luck with the agent. And Hugh, if you want to go ahead and pin a tweet up here about your project, then please do that so that people can see it and know where to follow.
I will do. Cheers, Miguel.
Great, of course. I wanted to move on to Cameron, who has a very interesting project called Non-Fungible Film. And Cameron, please tell us more.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Miguel. It's great to be here. My name's Cameron Moulin, very much undoxed. And we're building a Web3 focused entertainment studio called Non-Fungible Films with the overarching objective of helping and accelerating Web3's bridge towards mainstream media. We've put together an advisory board that is currently unannounced, but it's got 2 or 3 former studio heads and William Morris Endeavor and their whole partners board, as well as a couple AAA named celebrities who are involved in those Marvel films that we were speaking about earlier. And our first project slate is we own 27 Bored Apes, and we're partnering with some exciting showrunners to do a Bored Ape Yacht Club animated series, utilizing our collection as well as a couple other partners who are big holders. We are co-owners in Non-Fungible Heroes, which is an exciting collection as well. We're doing an animated series with them. And then we have 2 in-house projects that are dropping in April, which I'm incredibly excited about. The first is a collection, which will be called Oscar Haley and the Great Beyond. It'll be our first in-house IP that we're going to develop ourselves and make a studio animated film out of. And then the second is a membership pass. And the membership pass will offer all holders whitelist for every collection that Non-Fungible Films ever does. And every project will be granted first access via a watermarked secure link so that you can see content for the rest of the world, regardless of what streamer we put it on. And then a bunch of airdrops and access to events in real life and outside of, and much, much more that we're not ready to announce quite yet, but we're building out a full ecosystem for PDE games and a lot of exciting stuff.
Wow, that's incredible. Very, very exciting stuff for sure. Thank you for sharing. Can I just ask, so is your first project in the pipeline the Bored Ape animated series, or are you working on several and you don't really know which one will hit the screens first, or what's the plan there?
That's a great question. To be honest, I can't. I mean, everyone in here who works in the industry knows it's hard to be clairvoyant in terms of what goes first. I would guess, just because of how far along we are with the pre-production on the Bored Ape Yacht Club series, that will come first. But that alone will likely take about a year, just due to the process of animation and making sure that we reach the quality that we want to do with the animators and the producers and writers that we're partnering with. But we also have the Non-Fungible Heroes project that should go soon as well. But it's just, the trouble with animation is that, it does not move at the same speed as Web3. It's molasses relative to the constant churn of events and content that you get in this space. So it's a tough juxtaposition, but that's by far the furthest along so far.
All right, thank you. And so I think all the projects that you mentioned are animation, if I'm not mistaken. Do you guys plan to also foray into live action, or are you
Yes.
focused only on animation?
No, I think our first 3 projects are certainly going to be animation focused. However, we already have a project on the slate that was brought in by one of our board members that they would like to do in parallel with an NFT collection to give true utility and ownership to the community. But it will be a live action project that we are incredibly excited about. But I cannot say more yet. But we're going to do both. But I think the truth is, the spirit of the company started with wanting to create new animation and have new independent animation that stems from Web3. And that's very exciting to me, because I think that we've, the big names that everyone knows have done a great job. There's just been it's a very limited market, right? I mean, even today, as someone who maybe writes an animated series, you only have 4 real places that you can bring them to anymore. It's Disney, you've got maybe DreamWorks, then Netflix or a streamer, and that's it. There's no one else that's buying animation. Like Cartoon Network, very limited supply. So to have a new studio that wants to produce and then also can maybe be hosting that content natively on Web3, there's just a big opportunity there that we were excited to fill that gap.
Great. And so if the one thing I didn't get is, for example, for the Bored Ape Yacht Club, you are obviously utilizing Web3 native IP in order to turn it into, animation content in this case. Where is the funding for that coming? Is that like internal equity funding? Because a lot of the projects that we've seen here in the Web3 film, space are utilizing NFTs mostly for fundraising. So that's one aspect where your film, your project is very different in that regard. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a tandem. There will be funding based off of the platform. Bored Ape Yacht Club will be unique for us in our slate, because that is not an in-house IP. It's just IP that we own through our collection. So we will probably partner with a major streaming platform. We're already having talks with them. And what we're likely going to do is have it be our first and maybe only hybrid model delivery system, where we want to cast the net as wide as possible and really get as many eyeballs onto Web3 as we can, and show that there is valid and exciting content that's being created here by this community. And then everything else is likely going to be hosted natively in one way or another, or at least as a hybrid between Web3 and a traditional streamer. So, a streamer will likely put up money to co-own that show. We may very well just decide, based off of the mint of our membership and all the utility that we're offering therein and secondary sales, that could be a funding contributor. But right now the plan is to have the Bored Ape show live on a larger platform and make a partnership therein.
Hey,
That's very
Miguel.
exciting.
Miguel, can
Yes,
I ask a question? Hey,
of course.
Cameron. It's Jordan.
Hi. Hello.
Hey. So my question to you then is, since you have 27 Bored Apes, have you guys thought about doing some sort of DeFi against them, or taking out a loan like Pleaser DAO did? They took out, I think, a $3 million loan from a bank that does that kind of thing. Have you guys thought about anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you what I have thought of. I haven't thought about taking out a loan because currently there isn't a need. But what I have considered
And because you love
strongly,
your apes, right?
and because I love my apes. But and by the way, it's owned by a group of us. I'm not the sole owner of all of those apes. I have a lot, but not 27. And the partnership for the show will be other notable ape holders in the community. But what we have thought about, I have speculative doubt rather, on the real utility with DAOs for holders in the community. And my main focus with everything I want to build at Non-Fungible Films is I don't want to be a traditional entertainment studio that there's a one-way relationship with consumers where we make content, you pay us, you're contributing in that way, and that's the end of the story. I really am focused on how do we build utility. So something I have thought about is using a lot of the mint cost to actually build out a vault and then fractionalizing that vault and creating a DAO therein and tokenizing and giving, essentially returning value to members as well as consumers of the media, utility token based hedged off of the value of those liquid assets. But that is still a very nascent idea. However, it's an exciting one because I think what we could really build out is an incredible vault and trove that the community then gets to dictate some decision making on. And that's just early. And I think that we're going to really gauge how much we can do once we get there. But there's a variant of what you asked, Jordan, that I'm very interested in. Yeah.
I was just going to say that last July, myself and a few of the members of the NFT Filmmaker Squad were, seriously considering a DAO. And one of the things that we were thinking about is what you just said, like, building out something for the community and a vault that, that obviously brought value back to the community. So I think that's an awesome idea. I also think, like you just said, it's sometimes like ideas like that are not quite ready to be born, and they need a little bit of time to figure out like all of this in this space. That's super cool.
I'm learning a lot about DAOs as I go. I mean, I'm very familiar with NFTs, and I've been in this space for a while and have been, fortunate in how my whole story has been. But DAOs are something where I'm still trying to wrap my head around the real utility for holders and how, as an entertainment studio, we can bring true value. Because I'm all for democratization of decision making, and I'm all for joint ownership by the community that is essentially the springboard for an entity to grow. That said, how you bring that democratization into real, tangible results, not just fiscal, but also like creative and collaborative, how we can really bring real value to that community is something that I'm honestly still trying to learn about and figure out creative ways of doing it. And the vault idea seems like the one where it goes, okay, great. Listen, 10% of what we just made on our extraordinary mint costs and everything that we built out in this ecosystem, we're giving it right back to you guys. And you guys now, look, what I really thought about doing was going, let's go buy an M3 mutant. Let's go buy an M3 mutant and then give it back to the community. And you guys get to decide what we do with that mutant. You are fully autonomously deciding where we're going to go with this. And that was like to me, that's an exciting way of building something out that no one's doing yet. But I don't, I still need to learn is the honest answer.
Oh, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah, thanks so much. That's exactly what I felt back in July and August. I'm going to take a real quick second, Miguel, and just reset the room and then give it back to you and the guys that have their hands up. If you just are coming in, this is the NFT Filmmaker Squad. We have been building community and meeting for weekly for 1 year now. And it's super exciting that we're launching Mondays with Miguel. And bringing his insight and energy and talent to the squad. He's an incredible example of community building, and that's really what we've been about. And so I'm super psyched. If you want to get to know about more about the community, we do have a Discord. You can find that in my link tree, and we have our regular Filmmaker Squad every Wednesday from 1 to 3 Eastern, and also now every Monday with Miguel from 1 to 3 Eastern. A big thing that I like to just say as far as when it comes to community is Miguel, for instance, has brought in these amazing filmmakers that I hadn't met yet over this time. But please follow them, follow their projects, but also take a look around you, because someone may not be on this stage, but they're in the audience and they are also an exceptional filmmaker, out here trailblazing with the rest of us. So, look above you, look below you, look around you, give people a follow, give them a retweet if you can. find ways to support community. We're so happy you've come in here and decided to spend some of your time with us, and excited about what's happening. Thanks, Cameron, for your answers. I'm gonna hand it back over to you, Miguel.
Thank you, Jordan. That was great. And I have a last question for Cameron. So when it comes to the projects that you mentioned are native IP, I assume in those, then you're creating the IP in the form of a drop, and then you're using the funds from that drop to fundraise the content, whatever that may be.
In a hybrid sense, absolutely. I think we are, we're building out a large studio. We're going to scale pretty rapidly this year. So for example, with Oscar Haley, the first thing is that it's a 20,000 piece drop. And one of the huge value props for the member pass holders is they're going to get one free. It's our first collection. Everyone's taking a leap of faith. You're going to know who the advisory board is at that point. But our 10,000 member pass members, they're all getting one for free. And they will immediately get all the airdrops and all the benefits therein. And then the other 10,000 will be a Dutch auction mint. And that capital will absolutely go towards, firstly, there's no cash grab. Nobody's taking huge sums of money off the table and saying we're done with what we're doing. That's all going towards hiring screenwriters, animators, developers, Solidity devs in-house to continue to make content and return utility. So I think a large portion of what will be Oscar Haley's capital will go directly into production of it, but we will also probably get some traditional studio financing, because at the end of the day, these things still cost extraordinary amounts of money. And if you're trying to make a movie that has a $70 million budget, well, we're going to have to do pretty damn well in the secondary to reach that point. So
Yeah.
it'll be a hybrid.
Great. Thank you. That's a very exciting project, and I look
Thank you for putting
forward to following
the
it.
first banner up, by the way, of Non-Fungible
No, of
Films. That's
course.
the first still of Oscar Haley and the Great Beyond, everyone.
No problem. Yeah, exciting to follow the project, and also it's ballsy that you're doing a 10K Dutch auction drop. I haven't seen that in a while, so that's great to see. And I wanted to start to throw it to Luke here, but before that, if Huey or Chidi have any questions for Cameron or about Cameron's project, then please go ahead, or otherwise we'll move on to Luke.
I just wanted to kind of point out that having the DAO structure in place for us isn't necessarily purely for creative decision making. What the DAO allows is for a community governed treasury, which was important. That came straight from the movie royalties, which was important to give the community the option to vote on how we allocate that and how we develop that, and to give kind of basically to give back to the movie making community, by way of an indie movie festival or by way of helping out social impact film causes and stuff like that. Like, it's not just a creative collective. There is finance that comes into it, and regulatory like ultimate redemption for holders is super difficult. Believe me, we've had hours and hours and hours of conversations with lawyers, especially given that the majority of the demographic in this space is in the US. But the second best thing we can do basically is make sure that a portion of the royalties go back to a treasury that can be community governed. So sorry, that wasn't a direct question to you, Cameron. I was just kind of addressing the DAO point from our point of view.
No, that's great. Huey, I'd love to jump on, like a call or something with you at another time and learn more, because it sounds like you guys have had extensive conversations about this. So I'd really love to learn some more. Yeah, for sure. We actually got a letter in from a 3-letter acronym to regulator. So yeah, we've got lots of advice to give to you guys and help you out.
Great. We're happy to be facilitating bridges being built here. So that's amazing. And yeah, also what I mentioned about the DAO being a way of giving back to the holders and to the supporters of the film. That's kind of also what we're doing with CALLADITA. So yeah, DAOs can serve many purposes. And also, Cameron, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but one thing that I was curious on, with relating to what Huey mentioned, is that experiments of vaults being the collateral of a utility token, and that system being a way to give back value to the community, have had varied levels of success. So there's been a few people that have attempted that where it hasn't gone great. So do you have any comment about that?
Truthfully, my comment is that that's exactly why I have reservations about it in the first place. I think that in theory, it's a really great idea. And in practice, it becomes far more complicated. And that's really like over why I'd love to talk to Huey and whomever else really feels like an expert in DAO structure is, on the one hand, we are building an entertainment studio. So the vast majority of the capital is going to go towards building that. On the other hand, this is a Web3 entertainment studio. So a sizable amount of any mint costs and raises and sales, I want to go directly back to the community, and I want to find an incredibly novel and smart structure to do so. It's just that, real utility matters, because what I don't want is some big dud where, let's just use it as a hypothetical, we go buy an M3 mutant and then absolutely nothing comes of it, or it becomes this like stagnant asset that, there's no real way to finance a token without actual liquidity. It doesn't trade properly. So I think that there are probably iterations and evolutions on that model to really do it thoughtfully. And it's just going to take the time that it takes to make sure we do it right. Should we even go that route? Maybe we find something that's a variant of that that's even better. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm very open-minded towards finding the best possible thing, and I think that's going to require learning from people that know a lot more than I do.
That's great. Thank you for that. I love your whole attitude that you bring to the project, and it's very refreshing and very exciting to see, because you have a very big, ambitious project in your hands, but you are still very, humble and proactive in wanting to learn and not claiming to have all the answers. So that's great, and I wish you and your project all the greatest luck.
I mean, I have to just say, it's easy to be humble when you're surrounded by people who you think are gigabrains and are constantly teaching you things. I feel like I'm a student every day in the space, and that's what I love about it. So I don't really, it's not even like a feigned humility. It's I think I'm the dumbest guy in most rooms, and I just appreciate getting to learn.
Thank you. So now I wanted to introduce an amazing, talented artist who humbles me to the bone. Because I mean, if you go on the tweet that I posted, that I pinned up here by Luke, and you have a quick look at that video, you will understand very instantly what I'm talking about. Luke is an AI artist who makes incredible videos, immersive experience that I cannot even describe accurately. And this is a piece that he made for our CALLADITA art collection, which I will explain very briefly. My film CALLADITA, which we are fundraising via an NFT drop, we have a whole collection that I created from my own short film CALLADITA, which this film is based on. But then I also wanted to involve the larger community of NFT artists, so I invited a few artists to submit pieces that they created inspired by the film. And so we've created this collection of around 15 one-of-one NFTs that are all inspired by CALLADITA and have all been created by these amazing, variety diverse artists from all around the world. And one of them is Luke, who's here with us. And I don't want to go on much longer. I want to introduce him. In this piece called Tu me quieres blanca is an AI visualized poem that he created for this collection. And when he sent it to me, I was my mind completely exploded. This is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's incredible, and I'm just so humbled and honored to have him here and to have this piece as part of our collection. And I want to introduce him to you because, in not so long time, you will remember the day that you met Luke, who will that day be an incredible force in the NFT collection, in the NFT space, and an artist who will be selling for hundreds of thousands. So you will remember this day. Hi, Luke. How are you?
Hi, Miguel. Thank you, man. It's going to be hard to follow such high praise as that, but thank you very much. You've been very supportive. I really appreciate your enthusiasm and your positivity, man. So thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to meet you guys. Thanks. Yeah, it's nice to hear from Cameron as well about the plans for the studio. That sounds really interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. I followed you already, and really interesting to know that you're focusing a lot in animation as well, because it's kind of relates to what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I'm really excited to be connected to this CALLADITA project, and as soon as I saw the short film that Miguel showed me, I was really keen to make a contribution to the art fundraiser, and found this poem that was by an Argentinian, but seemed to relate to the sea, also related to these themes that I kind of felt I picked up from the short film, the 15-minute piece that is available on the website of CALLADITA. That these themes of equality, gender, class, and this poem was written a long time ago now. Now it's public domain, but it was written by Alfonsina Storni in 1918, and just seemed to fit very well with the opening image that I chose for the AI visualization, which is taken from the short film, the last shot. I think it is in fact from the short piece. And yeah, just happy to tell you guys about it. I've been working in AI art for a couple of years now. I started to experiment in the first lockdown here in the UK, and the beginning of those strange times. And I'd been following the tech for a while and been playing with some other things like AI text, for example. I'm also interested, and I've been holding some crypto for years and very interested in the space. But as soon as the NFT scene exploded, I knew it was time to be much more actively engaged, because it was switching from revolutionary finance to revolutionary art, culture, and new social structures. And that's what's always fascinated me about the blockchain space and about the NFT space. And I found every step I've taken, I found amazingly supportive, creative people, and just the ability to play and to sandbox things, and to create new forms of art and to explore new tech. And that's what I'm trying to do in my art. So this is AI assisted video work. My background is not in film, but I'm very into film and I'm very into independent film, as is my whole family, really. I mean, we love to watch independent film. I'm very excited about CALLADITA, and yeah, I'd be very interested to work more closely with people in the film world in the future, and to explore how I could bring, or how I and other people I work with can bring AI generated animation. Video work specifically is mostly what I am focused on, to the film world, because I think it's a very, very interesting time. And I don't know if you guys who are listening have seen it already. It's a bit difficult for you to watch it while you're in the spaces, because it's a poem, so it needs to be listened to also. But maybe you can take a look anyway on mute in the meantime, with just to see some of the visuals. But the whole experience is audio visual, and it's a traveling image where the AI is trained and then fed the poem line by line, and will, as I imagine it, the AI is kind of hallucinating. These are all based on AI that was originally developed kind of linking text to image. So the AI is previously trained on billions of links between text and image, just, I guess, in a related way to something like an image search. But then artists are now using these scripts and these forms to kind of exploiting them in new directions for artistic purposes. So looking to see where you can find images drawn from text. And for me, poetry is the obvious starting point for that. I'm working with some other inputs as well as poetry. Interested in doing some work with literature also. But yeah, very happy to answer any questions, and very happy to be connected to all of you guys in this space. I'm definitely going to be following along with a lot of interest how things are going with your projects. So yeah, good to meet you.
Thank you, Luke. It's all fascinating, really. If I invite everyone to check out, some of the images from this piece, which is here pinned to the top in a tweet by Luke. And then obviously once we close the room, then I invite you to watch it properly, which is without other sound, because you would be able to immerse yourself in this amazing poem and all of the imagery that Luke created. And can I just ask Luke a bit more about the process? Because I'm, I don't know anything about AI art, and to me, it's just mind blowing. And I don't know anything. I have no idea how any of these came to existence. So I'm very curious. And you're saying you fed the lines of the poem to an AI. So I'm curious, is that AI a software that you created yourself from scratch, or you fine-tuned it from something that already existed? And then also the poem is in Spanish, so I assume you fed it a translation, or does the AI know all the languages, or how does that work? And then also, I assume the AI doesn't do everything, right? Like, where do you come in to do part of the work, or how does that collaboration between you and the machine work?
Those are great questions. I'm going to hope that I can remember all three of them for long enough to give you good answers. It's a really fast moving scene. So one of the things that I'm fascinated about is that the AI art world has a lot of parallels with the blockchain world also, because blockchain, of course, the technology is moving so fast and it's so many people developing things all the time that you turn around for 1 week, 2 weeks, and there's so much new stuff happening. So the AI art world is exactly like that, because it's completely cutting edge tech that has only really existed in the current forms for maybe months. You know, most of the scripts that I'm using and the code that I'm using has only existed for a short time, and I'm constantly using new things. And many of there is some software out there now for people to work with AI art. There's more and more software, although I'm not using software myself. I'm using code, but I'm not really a coder. I've learned on my feet. I've always been fascinated with tech and kind of self-taught. So I'm mostly using variety of open source materials, scripts, sometimes bug fixing things, or researching until I can fix something isn't working. But I'm mostly using things that are coded by other people and then provided out there to the community. Just as much of the tools for blockchain are open source and are available to all. Same thing in the AI art world. There's most of it is not proprietary. It's just a matter of digging in, learning, engaging. So the piece that I made for CALLADITA, for example, I spent a couple of weeks working on. But of course, the final result is 2 minutes. So it does take time and work, but it's not, in my case, writing the code from scratch. It's playing with it, fixing it, figuring out how it works, and then playing with inputs. So you have many inputs. You're going to input the actual lines of the poem, but you're also going to input information. For example, we chose an initial image. In this case, we actually have a short video clip, as you know, from the movie, from the 15-minute film. We have a few seconds of that, but then there's also an initial image, which is input. Then you're going to put many other parameters to do with the speed of the traveling image. You're going to input other text prompts as well as the poem itself that are going to affect and inflect the way that the AI will visualize. And then you're just basically going to spend your time running partial or complete runs, which take many, many hours. So, for example, just one run for a trial run, say, to make this piece of 2 minutes long might take, 6-7 hours, something like that, for the actual code to run through. And you can, of course, run just a few seconds, checking how it looks, changing some parameters and so on. So it's kind of creative code manipulation, I suppose, and curation. And then you're going to end up, I will always end up with so many versions of something and then selecting the one that I think works best. And so a lot of the process is curation as much as creation. But it's great for me because my thing has always been kind of writing, editing, poetry, literature, and my father paints a lot, for example, and other people in my family paint. I've always been terrible at painting, but I love the visual arts, and it gives me this fascinating new way that I can engage. If I'm patient enough and I'm willing to sit there and put the hours in, then I can get out these results. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for that. And I have a last quick question. So in terms of the aesthetics of the piece, right? Because it's all very kind of stylistically organic or unitary. So I'm curious if you took the same code that you got this output from, and then you input a completely different poem, would the images would be very different, I assume, but the style of the images would be similar, or not, or how does that factor?
That's a really good question. It's a little bit difficult to answer, but one answer would be that you could input all exactly the same inputs and just change something very simple, like some noise factor at the beginning, or a seed, like a random seed that's used at the beginning as an input, and you will actually end up with many different versions, even without changing much. If you put in different words, even slightly different words, or very different words, you're going to end up with a very different piece. But yeah, you're right that there will be something familiar to the kind of outputs you might get from, especially from one specific bit of code. Or many of the things that I'm working with are based on something called VQGAN plus clip, which is just one set of open source materials that are kind of the basis for a lot of AI artwork at the moment. By no means all of it, but you could argue that the products of this type of code, or this family of code, that are derived from this Vikago and Clip might have certain aspects that once you have seen many things, you might recognize that it came from this notebook or this bit of code more than another. But there's still a huge range within that, and you can also give prompts to your run that might influence it in different ways. Like you can add descriptive features that will refer to a certain style of art or perhaps a certain filmmaker. You could try these kind of prompts and see what effect it has on the stylistic output.
That's great. Thank you. You have to teach us one day because it's all really fascinating and innovative. So thank you,
Sure.
Luke,
Happy to.
for sharing about that and for your amazing piece. And I invite everyone to go watch it at some point. And I'm gonna reset the room really quickly. We are the thanks, Luke.
Thanks to you, Miguel. I really appreciate the time, man, and I'm glad to be connected with you and the other people here, and happy to answer anything. If anyone has anything follow-ups later, just hit me up. I'd be happy to have a chat with you.
Yeah, and follow Luke because, as I said, you're gonna hear from him in the future or about him. So yeah, well, I'm just gonna reset the room really quickly. We are the NFT Film Squad, which was founded by our hero Jordan Bayne, who is here by my side, and she started this community to gather NFT filmmakers a few months ago, almost a year ago. First in Clubhouse and now on Twitter Spaces. And there's a Discord that is great to connect with many filmmakers trailblazing in the NFT space. And also we have 2 weekly spaces. The main one with the cult leader Jordan. No, that's a joke. With the community leader Jordan is on Wednesdays 1 to 3 EST, and then we just started last week the second one with me, which is Mondays with Miguel every Monday 1 to 3 EST, and that's just we have different topics every week. Today we wanted to do an open discussion and invite as many filmmakers from the space as possible to tell us about their projects. And yeah, and I'm Miguel, and I'm a filmmaker from Spain and an avid NFT enthusiast and collector. And with that in mind, we want to give the mic to someone else right now, which is Chibi. Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming. We'd love to hear from you and what project you're working on.
Hey, Miguel, how you doing? We're here with our whole teams here as well. So we're all together listening to your guys' space. And I love what you guys are doing. I mean, it's so cool to see like an extremely like-minded group of individuals, pushing the film narrative. Because when we first started with this idea, it was last year over the summer when we kind of, finished filming our second season and we started developing and kind of pushing it towards NFTs, and to see everyone else kind of how Web3 and I believe film was kind of the most, I think we're all very biased here, but it's the most, I think, is the most valuable narrative when it comes to actually streamlining content with NFTs directly to your consumer. I feel like that's the most valuable asset that we currently have. And so kind of to talk about our project is what we do is I wanted to answer Cameron's question earlier, but I think someone else, gave an even better response. But for us, we're all about actually utilizing the DAO to give the community power to actually control certain creative decisions for future narratives. So everything that we do is we're all about short form content. So what we do is and the reason why we pick short form content is because, as we all know as filmmakers, it's extremely difficult to fundraise and actually shoot a feature film. So I applaud everyone that's already, done that. So for us is we self-fund everything, and we try to make everything really up to standard with Hollywood production quality, because I think, everyone's a film critic. And I think when your film comes, even if it looks a little bit cheap, someone's going to catch on to that and someone's going to give you a lot of flack for that. So we source every minute at about $10,000 to $12,000, and we focus on, anthologies. So very similar to kind of back in like I believe the early 1900s with Alfred Hitchcock, was like the godfather of, thriller films, where he would, publish a short story every week on the newspaper, and people would tune in and read it every week, and they'd get extremely excited about that. So essentially that became the bedrock of storytelling, and a lot of films you can see were derived by so many of these early literary anthologies. So what we did was we just took these anthologies and we brought it to tech, and we kind of brought it to YouTube, where we started writing 10-minute short films, 10 to 15-minute short films, and produced it at a Hollywood quality. So therefore, instead of spending $100,000 on a feature, we'd spend $100,000 or $150,000 on a short to make sure it ensured everything that that would satisfy the audience's taste buds. So what we do with our project is we start every season with a comic, and then we end it with the live action short film. So it's the idea of actually walking each holder and unique NFT holder through the entire progress and the roadmap of actually creating a film, since the comic is very similar to a storyboard, right, with what everyone is currently doing. So we turn the storyboard into a comic, and then we drop every single page up until 70% of the film. Then we do a live action release where we release the entire film shot in live action. One thing that we do is we don't put up a paywall, so all of our content's actually free. It's just the art that they'll get, and the kind of the holders, what they get is movie memorabilia. So it comes from this fact of movie posters, or scavenger hunts, where we actually put in, for season 2, we'll actually incorporate more and more different NFT projects, like what they were talking about, like mutant apes, bored apes, cool cats, sneaky vampires. Will actually incorporate their digital art as Easter eggs into the film, so you create a scavenger hunt. And with film, the beauty of film, of what we can do as a community, is we're essentially the melting pot for all these different digital pieces of art to mix together. And with that scavenger hunt, you're actually sourcing all these different communities to be able to survive and thrive within the same ecosystem. So you're now getting the eyes and the audience members of all these different already very established projects to be excited to see their work and their PFPs being licensed in actual live action film. So what we're doing here is we're beginning kind of the catalyst and lighting the fire to start making digital work and digital derivatives and art be a part of mainstream culture. So that's something that I feel like we're trying to push forward, and we're trying to do to make things more interesting within the space, and make the film space more inclusive as a whole. And after that, obviously we have a DAO to where each season, obviously, as filmmakers, we all know we can't listen to everyone and give the audience too much creative control, or we essentially lose our own project and our own story that we're trying to tell. So each season we relinquish a bit more creative control through our DAO tokens, to allow them to vote for something new. So for season 1, obviously we've already completely finished filming season 1. For season 2, that's when we introduce a DAO and say, what celebrity cameo would you like to make for season 2? So currently, 2 Netflix producers is helping us produce both the seasons, and we're partnered with the Avengers, with a visual effects team that worked on Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, to kind of pump out the best quality content we can for the community, and essentially, excited to push this narrative, and film and with NFTs to a higher audience. And then to add on to what everyone was saying already with kind of financing with NFTs, I think that's a brilliant idea, because I think a lot of people that have worked in Hollywood, the kind of beneath the scenes, everyone knows that Wolf of Wall Street was probably one of the biggest films that came out within the past decade, and one of the most iconic. And what a lot of people, I guess, don't know, but the people in the industry do, is that Martin Scorsese, who's a household name director, and Leonardo DiCaprio, as A-list as you can possibly get, actually struggled to get financing, $4.5 million worth of financing for the film, when $4.5 million is essentially a sold out project of 10-20,000 collection, depending on how much ETH is worth at the current time. So to actually have creators streamline that, and find a way to finance that without actually having to go through investors or studios, because initially the studio turned them down, to where they actually had to get money from this money launderer named Joe Lowe. So American Greed actually came out with an episode about that recently. So it's really interesting to see that we can actually now, as filmmakers, independent filmmakers, we're no longer under the control of a studio. We can essentially bypass a studio if we have an audience, and streamline the content to the consumers at a good enough pace, and we do a good enough job. We can bypass the studios, because essentially we're forcing the movie chains and the theaters to pivot towards us, because we're obviously going to, as independent creators, we're going to be able to pump content faster than Hollywood, due to we just have merely more volume. So I think one thing that with the community that I'm seeing with NFTs right now is it's so competitive, where we don't need to be competitive, where there's enough food for everyone at the table to eat. And with Hollywood, I think everyone's very well aware it's so competitive for no reason, where Hollywood, there's a content war because everyone's trying to suppress each other. And I hope one thing with Web3 and what we're doing currently is that we can still continue to boost each other up, continue to support each other's projects, and share everyone's work. Because at the end of the day, I think everyone talks about Web3 being decentralized, but Web3 is still governed by Web2. Everything we do on Web3 is through a Web2 platform. And in order for us all to thrive, I think we all have to be extremely inclusive in the community, and trying to push each other up as much as we can.
Thank you. That
Miguel.
was
Okay.
yeah.
I was
I
like,
don't know
where'd
what
you
was
go?
happening.
You rug yourself?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chibi. Thanks for sharing. That was great. I have one question. So your seasons, the episodes are short films, and then where do you release these seasons? On YouTube, did you say?
Yeah, YouTube.
All right. But is that a free or pay-per-view, or how does that work?
Free.
All right. And what's the model for for revenue?
So for revenue is essentially, the revenue is essentially the mint, right? So the mint is essentially you're enhancing the season. You're watching the film escalate in scale. The reason why we do YouTube is because if you look at a lot of the other projects, probably the most well-known project to do actually film and animation in the NFT space is Stoner Cats. One place where, and we're actually partnered with the Stoner Cats DAO, and one thing that we learned with what they did extremely wrong was actually putting a paywall up for content. I think, I mean, our background is we worked for Jackie Chan for 6 months in his behind the scenes for a stunt team, and then we worked business development for a major studio in LA. And the biggest problem with producers is we get and we took emails for producers and found what projects to finance. You're getting thousands of scripts and submissions every single day. It's really difficult for a lot of people to actually watch a feature film without A-list celebrities. And what makes it even harder is when you put up a paywall, because the common thing that would made Quibi fail. I mean, I don't know if you guys know what are familiar with what Quibi is because it died so quick. But Quibi was so what made Quibi fail was the fact that the second you had to pull your card out of your wallet to watch the film or get a subscription or whatever it was, you immediately lost about 95% of your audience. So that's the reason why we decided not to do a paywall. And if you look at YouTube, it's the highest scalability, right? Because so essentially, if you create a DAO for your film and you get influencer involved, say, I mean, best case scenario, you get an influencer involved and the content is free. Your DAO token now can represent essentially the community vote of 2 million people behind that influencer. So if a major YouTube influencer says, I have this one token, and I'm essentially going to put up a poll on my YouTube channel, on my social media, and say, hey, how do you guys want to vote for this celebrity cameo? And essentially the community votes on how that one token is casted. That one token is essentially worth, the ideas of 2 million people, because and they're going to tune into your content because your content is free. But when you ask a community to essentially go pay for more content on already a free platform, it's hard for people to want to do that, because right now content consumption is all merely YouTube, TikTok, Instagram is your hub for content consumption. And one thing about it is all of it's free. So if people are looking at short form content and I put you a paywall, right, and I make you pay $2, $5, doesn't matter, 50 cents. They're not paying for that, because they can go to YouTube and essentially watch somebody in their book more entertaining, right, than us, and do it for free. And at the same time, viewership in Hollywood is so key, because they want to know, okay, well, if we want to invest in your film and we want to invest in you as a creator, right, what's your backing? How many people are actually willing to streamline your content? So YouTubers, why we're seeing, a lot of films, actually some films getting picked up by YouTube. One was Lights Out, and that Animal Crossing horror film. That film got picked up merely because it blew up on TikTok, and then they translated those views to YouTube, and the YouTube translated the views to the Hollywood studios. And Hollywood's like, wait, hold on, we have all these views, right? How do we go ahead and turn that up a bit? But now, if you have a 10,000 audience that are really die hard for what you have, and they care about the scalability of your films, if you create content that's free, they're gonna want to push and scale it even more.
Yeah. So wait, maybe I got lost at the start. But the first season that you said you've already produced, that was already fundraised with an NFT drop?
No. So what we do is we fully self-funded everything.
All right.
So what we want to do is, instead of saying, because in a fast-moving market like NFTs with slow execution, your project's going to die too fast, right? At least for us, in my opinion. I believe the project's going to die too fast, because if we use NFTs to fundraise a film, it's already very difficult with how many quote-unquote hype projects there are of understanding the NFT market. I want to show you proof of value before you even invest. So by the time you essentially mint, or whether we mint out or we don't mint out, I can drop the film regardless. So I'm not essentially put into a position where I'm stuck and I have to get the fundraising, where it feels like an old Indiegogo again. You know what I mean? So because I think we go ahead.
Sorry, but then I have to understand, what's the relationship between the NFT collection and the film? If it doesn't give you
DAO.
And the DAO is a governance to choose things about the next season.
Correct. So put it this way, right? So when you go on YouTube or you go on Reddit, right, where you go on all these big social media platforms, one thing that a lot of people do is they interact, they ask questions, they want to be more involved within that film. And I think one thing as filmmakers, that we've been making film for so long, we understand what it's like behind the scenes. We don't realize how cool it is for other people to see what it's like behind the scenes, right? So we're essentially with Chibi Club and how we're structuring this down, how we're structuring this, you're not only getting community games, you're getting people to go ahead and test fan theories, you're getting people to essentially get movie memorabilia, digital or physical. You know what I mean? And then through that, you're able to see that film scale, because obviously, we've worked with Netflix producers. You're able to see these films get pitched. You're able to see these films scale to a higher degree. You know what I mean? So it's in that aspect where it makes things more interesting. And you give them the idea of kind of like the behind the scenes, what it was like to make the film. What was the artist thinking? Because one big filmmaker, and I'm by no means making a comparison for us, but one huge filmmaker was Christopher Nolan, right? When he did Inception and Tenet, and all these films has such like psychological thrillers and twisted endings. The audience never had a chance to go ahead and ask them, "Hey, Chris, what was the ending of Inception? Did the top, was he still in the dream or was he not?" Right? Essentially, with NFTs, the idea is you're connecting your community and your viewership directly to the creators. And in Hollywood, that's never been done before. It's extremely rare and not even done, to be honest. It's always being done through a media company or, like Variety or, one of the major YouTube channels established by another studio branch. So you're essentially streamlining the audience directly to you. It's the same thing with music labels, where instead of artists saying, let me give 80% to the music label and have them do the marketing, I just use NFTs and give 20% back to the people.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
I got a question. I have a question. Because I'm not really sure that this hasn't been done before. I mean, I had one of the first successful crowdfunding campaigns on Kickstarter, and my audience, those people, that community that I built, I mean, all those years ago, they still are involved with me somewhat. I put out a case study, a short form motion picture last week, minted it, have a collector, and I have a community. I've been building a I've been building a community here alongside a lot of these other filmmakers for a year now, and that community, they rallied, and that piece of work was bought within, was bid on, including Miguel, was bid on immediately, and that revenue stream came directly to me and my colleagues. So I'm not really sure like why I need YouTube when I've got Zora and I've got community here and I'm building community here in Web3. So while I think that's a massive concept, it reminds me a lot of why I don't like YouTube and why I don't really care for Web 2, even though, yes, we are still using some functionality of Web 2. So I'm not really sure that I get like how this is going to help us grow out Web 3.
So the idea is, if you think about this, right? And I think we're talking about the same thing, right? I think just in different forms. With Web 3, you don't ever get to access Web 3 without Web 2. Web 2 is still the gatekeeper of Web 3. So how do you essentially market your film? You're talking about fundraising, Discord, Twitter, even the Twitter live stream. This is all Web 2. Web 3 is still being gatekept by people that run Web 2. Essentially, if we understand, like, to see the back end, like the darker side of the NFT market, right? Right now, celebrities in Hollywood, you can pay 50,000. Any single person in here can pay 50,000 and get a guaranteed 2 million return if you find the right NFT marketing system. They'll go mass Discord DM, all the influencers, all the people that are essentially gatekeeping the top of the Web 2, which are NFT whales, people that invested in Top Shot extremely early, people that are holding the majority of the apes. That's why a lot of the apes are having a problem, because the DAO, there's a DAO that they're requiring to be liquidated because they're holding the majority of it, and they're essentially changing the floor value while the ape token is going down. So when these people are controlling the narrative, how and which projects get seen, you're still relying on Web 2. So the idea is that you have to use Web 2 to push the narrative of how you're using tech to integrate Web 3, right? Because when you put your film on a platform, are you really going to be able to put your film on a blockchain and people are going to be able to access Web 3 without going through Web 2? That's the idea of what I'm saying, is how do we essentially try to mitigate, Web 2 dominance in Web 3, right? Is essentially still by sourcing community, because your community is interacting with you completely through Web 2.
100%, 100%, it's sourcing community for sure, for sure. And I think, I agree with you. We still have to work through Web 2. I think ultimately the goal though is to sort of eradicate those systems so that we can create, a new creator economy, and be far less a content economy where they're making the majority of the revenue stream off our backs.
Right, for sure. And I think maybe I missed your question. I'm not sure if I answered that question.
I think what you just said, sounds like, we are talking about, similar things. But I think for me, when I listen to your model, it and perhaps it's because you seem to be more like YouTube savvy. I've just never been a big fan of YouTube. But then again, I make smaller, I make smaller narrative films, right? And I have a smaller audience for sure than maybe what you have. But I feel like that we are creating that space. We do have like, yes, we have IPFS right now. We can't actually mint on the blockchain. We have limitations with all the platforms. Right now, Zora giving us, the most, unless it's a gated platform. We definitely have issues, but I see that people are creating solutions, down the line. And I think that we're going to see a lot of really cool changes that we've already seen, right? Since you've been doing this since the summer, we've already seen amazing changes. We're going to see amazing changes in the next 3 months, 6 months, and things like that.
For sure. Yeah. And then to add on to what you're saying, I guess for YouTube, right? YouTube was just merely an example because, it's the algorithm that favors you, right? And it ends up promoting your content up to a higher degree. But I mean, essentially, filmmakers can use whatever platform they really like. They can essentially put it on and host it on their own site as long as their own site can handle the traffic, or they can handle and they put it on Vimeo, right? But it's just the idea of YouTube is that the more clicks that you have, the more YouTube's going to favor you and push your content to the top. And when you're a filmmaker and you're a smaller creator like us, and when we try to go and we put it on YouTube, the more clicks we get, the more audience are going to see it. And the more audiences that see it, essentially now Web2 is in your favor. So you're essentially kind of the chicken or the egg, right? It's like you're using Web3 to kind of leverage Web2, but you're also using Web2 to leverage Web3. So I hope that answers whatever question and kind of clears things up a bit.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Simon, welcome. How are you?
GM,
Good to have
busy,
you.
but just trying to catch up. I feel like I'm joined in the middle of the conversation, so I don't really want to say anything until I know exactly what the topic is. But how's everyone doing?
Oh, good. Thank you. And we've been jumping from topic to topic. We don't really have one single topic today. It's more of an open discussion, and we've talked to some great projects about what they're working on. So I would, if we have a topic, it's Web3 cinema and Web3 the film and TV in general. So we'd love to hear from you if you have any updates on your own project, or if you have any new
Yeah,
ideas to
we're
bring.
re-up. I mean, we're re-up. Big update coming today with our website and V2 of it, and it's really when I really started looking at this space, I thought everyone's mindset is how do you use Web3 and the finance here to raise capital to make basically a traditional film. And I think looking at it that way isn't the right way to best utilize this technology. And I don't know exactly what that answer and how to use it is yet, but I'm forward thinking on what does the Web3 entertainment experience look like? What is the future of entertainment? Don't get me wrong, I love film, I love television, I did it for a long time, but I know the financial model is so fucking broken. It is awful. So I'm more thinking how can you make it a true experience here? So that's kind of what we're doing with the Nuclear Nerds, is trying to create an engaging way for a community to develop an IP together without saying, hey, I want to do this just to make a movie or a show long term, because I'm looking at what does that experience look like in a year from now? Is it an interactive experience? Is it more passive? We don't know. But the one thing we do know is people love story, and that's what we're really focusing on. So we're not pigeonholing ourselves into saying we're doing this just to make a movie. So today when we're launching our site, it's really kind of bringing the community into giving a say of how the IP is going to be developed. And we're going to kind of put those out in various chapters over the course of this year. So it's been a lot of back end work the last couple weeks getting this all set up. And this is really just building the model that not only can nerds use this, but anyone else trying to develop IP going forward can as well. And it's really forward thinking on how do many IPs be interoperable with each other rather than just a closed walled garden. Obviously focusing on our story first and allowing to expand not just stuff we develop internally, but also other people that are trying to bring their IP in going forward. So it's been a lot, been busy, excited to get this update out there. We're also doing some updates with the Caterpillar mystery trait should be revealing relatively soon, which I'm excited about. Just cranking away.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. In case anyone doesn't know, Simon is one of the founders of the Nuclear Nerds, and they have some very exciting things coming in the entertainment arena. So give him a follow to keep updated on that. And thank you for sharing that, Simon, about we need more pioneers like you guys, pushing the boundaries of what is possible for Web3 entertainment, and especially in that spirit of open sourcing that you just mentioned at the end. I think that's super important, and I want to encourage anyone, we have a bunch of builders here in the room, which is great to see. And it would be great if we all took example from Simon in this regard of open sourcing as much as possible. Because almost anything you can build right now in Web3 cinema is gonna be in some ways an innovation. So if as much as possible you can strive to open source that as much as possible, then you're only gonna help this space grow. Like for example, in our case, CALLADITA, we've had to do everything from scratch. So all of the smart contracts are created from scratch with a dev team, and we've done everything from zero. And we're planning on open sourcing that whole thing for anyone to be free to use in however way they want. And even also, we're working with we're speaking to several institutions to see where would be the best place to publish a case study once we finish the process, to sort of explain everything we did and hopefully share it with the community and put it out there so that anyone can copy as much as they want and use whatever tools we might have stumbled upon that were useful or not useful, learn from our mistakes as well, and use the power of Web3 to make their dreams come true, essentially. So thank you, Simon.
Yeah, well, Miguel, we've talked about it too, and it's like such an interesting dynamic, and it's like it comes back to the model of film right now. And I mean, it's always been this way. Like coming as a producer, like it sucks, but your number one priority is you want to return your investors their capital back. Like if you don't do that, chances are they're not going to give you, the money to make the next film. And now kind of coming in here, if you're only coming in saying, oh, I'm going to use NFTs to raise capital to fund my film, like, then what's the difference than just doing it as a Kickstarter? Like, it was like when I worked in the VR side, I always say, why do it in this medium? Like, what is the reason to do it here? And if you're only doing it to raise capital, then like respectfully, like just don't, like it, because we know most movies are not going to make their money. So you're just kind of taking advantage of people that may have some excess income in crypto and think they have a bigger chance. But it is that innovation side. And what does it look like? And it's just really trying to test all that out as we go forward. And I know we talked about this on the last spot. There's a lot of regulatory constraints that don't really allow us to fully do what we really want to do yet.
Yeah, I agree that if the regulatory barriers don't get better, then I agree that like a model similar to what we are doing, for example, with CALLADITA, isn't very scalable and very sustainable, as a solution for a very broad independent film space, right? Because you can't expect all of the films to become hugely successful and hugely culturally relevant, and hence you can't expect all of those NFTs to hold up the value if their only utility is to be a memento of having supported the financing of a film. So that I agree 100%, Simon. Although I still think it's a better model than Kickstarter, because at least you get an NFT as opposed to a T-shirt, Anyways, I'm gonna reset the room really quickly, and then if anyone else wants to come up, then please do. We'd love to hear from you. We have so many talented, inspiring filmmakers here, and as I said, this is just an open discussion about where we see film and TV going in the future, thanks to Web3 and NFTs. So please come up if you have any ideas or any comments or anything to share in that very wide realm. And I see already some people are asking to come up, so I'm gonna accept you, and in the meantime I'm gonna reset the room. For anyone who's joined in the past few minutes, we are the Filmmaking Squad, which is a group of trailblazers in the NFT film space that was founded by Jordan Bayne, who's here to my left, a few months ago, and the group has been meeting for many months on Clubhouse and then Twitter Spaces to talk about the future of film via Web3 and to onboard a lot of people and a lot of filmmakers. And they also have a Discord, which you should check out so that you can keep with the community and engage with this wonderful community where we are all very supportive of each other and trying to elevate each other so that we can grow this film NFT space as much as possible. And we do 2 weekly spaces. The main one with Jordan is on Wednesdays, 1 p.m. EST. And then on Mondays, 1 p.m. EST, we have Mondays with Miguel, which you are listening to right now, which will have different topics every week, but essentially we'll always be kind of talking about cinema and Web3. And one thing that I was thinking about, Jordan, before is that one day maybe we could take a rest from all of this building and pioneering, and we could do a space where we just talk about movies that we love, because at the end of the day, we are all cinephiles here. So that could be a good topic for
I
another
love
week.
that. I love that. I should also tell you that something that you don't know, it's been in the works for a while, and so I can announce it today, is that we're going to be also doing a space on Saturday, starting this Saturday with Jason. Jason Jarnick down there has been, coming as a filmmaking squad member since last spring, and he's got, as you know, always some great energy and views. So we're now building out to 3 NFT Filmmaker Squad spaces a week. And that starts. So we have you on Mondays. We're going to be Wednesday, this Wednesday, and then on Saturday. So, and if you want to join the Discord, so you don't, forget, because we'll let you know, it's in my link tree. And so psyched, Miguel. I think that's a great idea. Anytime you want to do that, it's Mondays are yours.
Great, we'll set it up. And can I just say to anyone in the audience who's thinking that 3 spaces about film NFTs a week is too much, then may I just say that you are wrong, because in like a matter of weeks, there's gonna be 20 weekly spaces about film NFTs, just as there are now about photography, because we're super early, but this is really starting to heat up. So you heard it here first. If you want to be early to something in NFTs, you can still be early to film NFTs, but not for that long. So, come on board, because it's an exciting rocket that we are on here. So anyways, back to, giving the word to the floor to our wonderful guests. So I don't know who came here first, poor Marty or Hot House, but whoever wants to speak, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be long. I gotta be quick. I just want to say what's up, y'all. And no, I was listening to GB speak. It's interesting about getting NFTs with getting film content with NFTs versus like making content free. And I think what GB was saying really he said it really well. I don't think I couldn't do it justice, but I come from a content background. I make content, like that's my job. I was making content for fun on YouTube since like 2009, and one of the things that I've realized is that you can get a lot of leverage for anything using communities and things like YouTube and the different platforms that are boosting content. So it was just interesting listening to um, how he describes how using Web2 is a definite, you can use it as to your advantage. And it's been interesting listening to a lot of people in film that are getting into NFTs and thinking about dropping things and getting them at with NFTs. It didn't it doesn't always feel like that's like I don't know that I would do that. I don't could do that because I want as many people as possible to see the content. And I think with films are like, I make short form content, so I can create all of the content easily. Not necessarily easily, but I can create content without having to need a full staff and all of that stuff. But I know a film, you need more people, so I can understand how NFTs are important. But I think as purely for funding, I think NFTs create an amazing opportunity for filmmakers to build their projects. But man, I really just wanted to say, GB, what you were saying, I was really digging it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming up. And yeah, you make some great points. And I agree that with what you're saying and what you was saying also about gating content, whether it be through tokens or through a paywall of any kind, is difficult. But especially if we're talking about short form content, I think that's an important clarification to make. There's still millions of hundreds of millions of people who pay every month their Netflix fee, their Amazon fee, etc., to watch long form content, whether it be series or documentaries or films. But it's true that it's always been a struggle, and this has gone on for decades, and in many different mediums, it's always been a huge struggle to make people pay for short-form content. And there, I have to agree that I don't think NFTs are gonna provide a useful solution for that, probably. But yeah, and also I was just saying about all the streaming platforms that have millions of viewers, and we also shouldn't forget about the cinemas, which might be struggling with the pandemic, but there's still millions of people who go to the cinema every year, and that's not something that we shouldn't forget or disdain, because that's still very much a revenue stream that, although diminishing because of the pandemic and also difficult because of the huge corporations who are amassing most of the multiplexes, there are still beautiful temples to the cinema in the large screen where you can go and disconnect from the world and watch a film there. Anyways, Hot House, how are you? Welcome. Please tell us what you're working on or your thoughts on any of what we've been speaking about.
Hey there. Hi, good to be here. Thank you for having me up. Is Hut House or Hudson Korea, and I'm a filmmaker and writer. I focus primarily on children's content, and sometimes I do some fictional narrative. But mostly what happened was that when I discovered the NFT world, I put all my projects on hold because I was very bullish on knowing that this is the future of cinema and of filmmaking and of that medium. And so I just wanted to get in here and learn about how are we going to do this? What is everyone doing? How are, part of building a community, become a part of this community. So now that I am a bit more involved, I'm picking my projects back up. I just excited to have found this group and to be connecting with other filmmakers and figuring out how we're going to do this in Web3 and how we're going to develop the Web3 culture and community to take this medium forward. Yeah, that's pretty much it. On a note from what we've been talking about a little bit, personally and ideologically, I am looking to move away in a very definitive way from a Web2 methodology and practices. And that's what I'm hoping that in Web3, we develop our own way and we find our way to use this tech to forward our philosophical approach to how we take this medium forward, rather than relying on the things that have worked for us in the past. I'm here to help us brainstorm and innovate ways forward. But again, very new to it all and excited to be here. So thank you all.
Thank you for sharing, and we're super excited to have you. We hope to see you on our spaces more, and to welcome you to our community, and hopefully we can all grow together and learn together. And Ed, I see you have your hand up, but can I just 1 second? I wanna say hi to Women NFTs because she's the creative colleague of Luke, who we heard from before, and she's actually the voice actress of that amazing piece that Luke created for the CALLADITA art collection. And I just wanted to say hi and welcome. And if you had anything that you wanted to share about this amazing piece and beautiful poem, then please go ahead.
Hi, Miguel. Muchas gracias. Many thanks. I'm really, really pleased to have participated in this piece. I really find it so strong, so important, so timely, even though it has been created decades ago. I think it's just a great moment with what is happening on the internet to put the face, the voice, the letters, the writings of women out there. And I think that Calladita makes that point as well so well, as this poem does as well. The role of women, I think that is going to change with what is happening with the internet. There's a lot of strength, a lot of creation, and I think it's just an incredible opportunity. So I'm really grateful. And you might not listen to the same voice right now because this is my English voice, but I'm just very pleased. And I really wish you a lot of luck, and I'm very happy to be part of this community as well.
Thank you so much. That's super inspiring and heartwarming, and your voice acting is phenomenal on that piece. So thank you so much for your generosity and your amazing talent. And definitely we agree on that future for Web3 and for women in this space that we hope will keep growing and and taking up more of the space, because we need a more diverse world and also art. So that's we definitely share that vision and that hope, that optimism about the future. And Jordan, our community hero here, definitely is very much a supporter of that idea and has worked very hard to make it happen. So, or is working very hard to make it happen. So great. Thank you so much for coming and for sharing. Ed, you wanted to tell us something. Please welcome and share with us.
Hi, Miguel. I just wanted to say, or is it Miguel? Is it me? Am I saying it correctly? I want to say it correctly.
Miguel, yeah, Miguel is fine.
Miguel. Awesome. I love the show that you created. Looking forward to the film. Simon, I came here to fight Simon. Because Simon put up this tweet. I kind of want to. You just put it up 4 minutes ago, Simon, and you were like, "We have to think bigger," and I'm just like, no, I appreciate it, because I want to think bigger too, especially with Web3. We're here, NFT should not only be about us using this to fund our projects, which is what I am going to do. I'm going to use my NFT to fund my pilot, but it should be bigger than that. So I really, really ask this question: how can we make it bigger? Thanks, Simon.
Simon, wake up.
Second, sorry.
Did you not hear what I said or asked?
I'm just doing something, Ed. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. No worries, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, so that's been my struggle, because
we can open that to the room, maybe.
Or anyone
you bring
else.
a great point and a great question. I think I can answer part of that, or I can tell you about some models that are starting to be implemented that I think are interesting. So one model that I find very exciting is Julie's model with Keepers of the Inn, where the NFT collection is intended not only to fundraise the film, but also to create a community of like-minded keepers, which are the holders of the NFTs, who are all invited to participate in a community way in the creation of the film. So Julie has weekly town hall meetings with all of the community, and there she shares where she's at in the process of writing, rehearsing, casting, everything, any stage of the process that she's at that moment. And then she opens it up to questions, to suggestions. She will also host votes on certain issues that she wants to open to community decision and things like that. So in a way, it's a creative collaboration that is powered by a DAO. And well, it's not actually set up as a DAO, but essentially the idea is a community-based creation, which is facilitated by NFTs. That's one example of doing more than just funding with NFTs. Then another example would be, we have here Granting Wishes here, who they're creating an amazing theater in the metaverse, a cinema in the metaverse, and we can speak about that in a second. But and another way in which the NFTs can be utilized is for distribution, and also more than just for distribution. To me, it's very fascinating how you can use NFTs to do a very cool vertical integration of the whole process. So you start from the fundraising and you end with the ticketing, right? And actually, for me, this is very interesting because the very first film ever in the history of film that was crowdfunded was in the 30s. It was a film by Joseph von Sternberg, who is a German director who worked in Hollywood and was very famous for his films with Marlene Dietrich. I hope you would have heard of him, the cinephiles in the room. His films with Dietrich are incredible, and he was a pioneer in many respects. And one of the pioneering aspects was that he was the first to crowdfund a feature film. And what he did essentially was he wanted to independently produce a film, and he was going around the streets in Hollywood pre-selling tickets before the film was made. And then once he sold enough tickets, he had the whole budget of the film raised, and he was able to make the film. And then you got a paper, and you went to the cinema and showed that paper, and you could claim a ticket. So essentially, the purest form of crowdfunding is basically pre-selling, which I find very interesting. So in that sense, if you were able to create a very cool distribution model with Granting Wishes or with anyone else doing NFT distribution or token gated screenings, you could sell NFTs even just claiming that the only utility of these NFTs is to be able to watch the movie, then you could price that at $15, and if you sell enough, you could raise the whole budget of the film. So I think that would be a very interesting model as well.
I'd love to jump in on that for a second, Miguel, because it reminds
Of
me of
course.
it reminds me of a couple of things. One is that on Wednesday, we're actually going to do a deep dive in the squad room on distribution, which is going to be, I think, a lot of fun, especially right after this room and the things we got to talk about today. But also, it reminds me of Amanda Palmer, and when she, she was actually the first person to raise $1 million for a project on Kickstarter. But what she really started was sort of this idea. She used Twitter to, she basically pre-sold her album on Kickstarter, and then she moved over to Patreon or whatever you call that platform. I think I'm shocked that she has not come over to the dark side of with us yet, because she is to me like someone who was an absolute OG when it came to community and community making choices, and then offering them incredible incentives, and like literally having, and until she and Neil split, I guess right around the middle of the pandemic, she was still super 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 active with her community. So she's a great case study as far as like going back and looking, and something like, I love what you just said, the possibility of, what that filmmaker did in the 30s. Again, we do have to figure out, how are we going to be financing our films. And I love that we're still experimenting. Everyone's experimenting right now. So I think that there's a book. Amanda wrote a book. I forgot the name of it, but it's also very very cool about like how to create community that are your people. They're your tribe, which is exactly what we're trying to do, here with the NFT filmmaker squad, and all every single person in this room, and everyone who's come to these spaces all year long. We're doing this together, and I've
Yeah.
said to you many times, I've learned so much also from you and from Julie and from Ian and Kamani and Jason, and I can keep going, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a cool, a lot of different cool models coming out.
Yeah, and also one last point that I wanted to make to Ed, and which is also kind of fighting a bit. I mean, I agree with Simon that we have to work very hard and strive to be more innovative and more forward thinking. But at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with that the models for funding content utilizing Web3 are. Wait, did I get dropped?
No, you're here.
No, you just
Okay,
have
okay.
the mic. You just have the floor. It's
All
all
right.
you.
Yeah. So I was so the thing I wanted to mention is that, for example, something like what NFT studios are doing, which is which we heard at the beginning, and which essentially what they're doing is they're fundraising a film with NFTs, but then essentially those backers become members of a DAO that will make many films in the future. So they become essentially partners in a DAO that operates in a decentralized manner and produces content on a on a regular basis, if you will. What I mean is that this model is very different from the current financing model in Hollywood, because normally when you look for a film financier, you are not selling equity to a forward thinking, forward looking project that will be sustainable in the future. You're just seeking someone to finance the budget of the movie, and then you're giving them points in the back end, or you're giving them the full back end so that they will recoup and make profit on top of that. But you're not funding a company and giving them some. I mean, NFT Studios is not giving them equity because you can't do that legally, but the DAO tokens essentially function more similar to equity than they function to the current Web2 or whatever traditional film financing model. And to me, that's more exciting. Even if I was an investor and I am a big believer in film, I'm not sure, I'm not smart enough to tell you what I would prefer, what my accountants would prefer, but as a Patreon, I would definitely prefer the second one, because I become part of something a lot bigger and a lot more sustainable and future, and looking towards the future. Yeah, anyways, those are kind of my answers, Ed. I hope that I helped you. If anyone else wants to jump in on this great question that Ed had, please go ahead. or otherwise we'll move on to someone else.
No, that was fine. I have more questions, but we can talk about this another time on the back channels. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. And no, I mean, I don't want to kick you out. So if you want to ask another
No, it's
question,
cool. It's
please
cool.
go
I
ahead.
go on forever. I'll just be, I just have bits and pieces and stuff, and it's fine. There are hands up here. I see someone with the hundreds because now, yes, he's not busy anymore. But it's fine. I'll be in I'll be in your DMs as well.
I'm busy.
Because that's what's just gonna.
It's more of just. It's when I've been studying what's been going on. Like it happens on every cycle. The more I see it, that people look at Web3, crypto, NFTs, tokens as okay. Here's what I've been doing in the past. There's liquidity. There's capital here. How do I get that to do something that I want to do in a traditional medium? And like, there's nothing completely wrong with that, but I think there's so much more opportunity for greater innovation going forward and fixing these broken models. Like to just go take capital here to go make a show or a movie that you'll go sell to Netflix or a traditional distributor. It's like what's the fucking point? Like, I mean, I get it, it's to raise money to do it, but you're now just taking capital from different kinds of investors that might not be able to afford to lose it. So like, how do you actually make it a larger experience? Like, what do these future distribution models look like? What is the interactivity? What is the engagement that can go with it? So there's no right answer to it, but it's just challenging to think about what we can do differently rather than just sticking in the same path that we always know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not so much about us what we can do differently. I think we're definitely doing that. I think there's a lot of ideas. It's more so of what the community is willing to do, like is willing to like take, right? Like even bringing film into the ecosystem. Like we're very early, right? And so I don't know, like even doing that and saying, hey, I'm going to drop this NFT or something like that. This is going to be something to use to fund a film. And that process of like using that, like that's already like kind of in a way like different from any other drop, right? Because now you have to like build that community and you have to hope that the community is willing to be interactive and join the journey and the process of the creating of the film, right? Versus just getting it day one, So that's already like something new. And then to have that, it's created, and then now you bring up this idea of like, okay, well, we're going to introduce something that's Web3 formatted. Maybe we're going to make a server that's going to host this Web3 film, and then you can get like a token. If you have this token, then you can watch it. It's more so just like, well, do they feel like that's enough, right? And I don't know. It's really based off like what society has done. Like, or if it's on a streaming platform, then that seems like it's going to be profitable more than something that's only geared to Web3. So I don't know. It's these questions that you have in your head. I was just more so like, okay, does the community care about that? Because I don't think us as artists, we care. Like, it's more of just like, hey, if you're down to watch this and be involved, of course we want you to be a part of this. And of course we want to make this Web3, but it's also one, we definitely still want it to be visible to everybody. But two, it's also just like, is that enough? But I don't know. That is the dilemma I have. But I'm here because it's the pressure, right? I want to be Web3 all day, gang. But it's also just like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. And two quick points about that. First one, Wednesday there's gonna be a great talk about distribution models in Web3. So that's so don't miss that, because a lot of these questions or these topics are gonna be raised there,
I'm
or
sorry, I
maybe
should have
even
waited till Wednesday.
answered there. So that's amazing. And then also I wanted to point out how we need people like Simon in the space. So thank you, Simon, for bringing this critical approach and challenging some of the assumptions here. Because we're all super positive here, and that's great, and you're also positive, but it's important to also kind of push ourselves and everyone in the space to do more
Miguel,
and go
I mean,
farther.
trust me, it's not that like I and like literally like this is when I first came in was exactly what I was thinking. Like, oh, I'm just gonna go make a movie. Like, I can go sell some NFTs and raise the funding and do it. But I think it's just the longer you spend your time like fully diving into crypto, Web3 and what's possible, it really just changes your entire perspective on many outlooks. And that's why it's like, it's about challenging a broken system more for me and figuring out new ways to do things. And it's not easy. Like, cause I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I have a movie right now that's already half financed with big talent that I guarantee you I can come in here tomorrow and sell NFTs and finance it. But that movie is not going to make its money back. like it won't. So why would I want to do that? Why do I want to be a test case right now to see how that will benefit holders long term? So for me, it's like, unless I can figure out an exact reason that will give many benefits beyond just
Selling
holding
it.
a collectible, it's like I just can't do that. And I know people are going to, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a kind of a different mindset that I've shifted on the last year.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you for that. You
I
definitely
feel
bring
pressured.
some important points. And Ian, welcome. How are you? Please go ahead, share with us. Ian, hello. Yes, you wanted to speak, but then you didn't.
Thank you, Rob. Ian, you might have to leave the
Can,
stage and then come back.
can y'all hear me now?
Hi. Yes.
My bad. Earpods be acting up.
It's all right. We can hear you. No. Okay, let's go to Christina and then Ian, if you can come out and then come back up. Christina, hello. How are you? Welcome.
Hello, guys. I'm so happy that I'm here and I have the connection because I also lost connection and have to come back. So it's Twitter Spaces have this. I must say I feel very elevated by everything here today. I think every film student or film professional is losing when they're not in these regular spaces, Jordan spaces, where the new informations for filmmakers. And I just basically am happy to be here. And if you guys interested, I have been able to build a small cinema, just a home cinema, let's say, or a club cinema, where is my movie shown, so in metaverse, I mean. So if you want to check it as my pin tweet. And I think what is needed in metaverse is more like bigger cinemas that can be showing more movies than just this. But also this is also option. So let's check it out if you want. And yeah, a small one room club cinema. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great.
I just would jump in and say that was really the cue for Ian and granting wishes, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
What's up, y'all? Y'all can hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, yes. So how's it going, everyone? My name's Ian, and yeah, I mean, I think that was a good segue into what I'm building, and that's exactly what she mentioned. Is I'm building a cinema and a theater in the metaverse in Crypto Vatos that is going to fully function as a distribution avenue for NFT films and just regular movies that want to sell tickets, NFTs, or sell tickets as NFTs and participate in the royalty recoupment, as well as rewarding fans for purchasing and going to the movies as well. So we're in the final stages of building and getting ready to launch. The site and smart contract is being developed, but the theater is up and you can actually go visit it and join the server, as we'll be building in the open. So everyone can either participate and have a say. And it's really a community thing, right? It being run by the community efforts and premieres and screenings. I talked to some people here as well, screening their film there, being able to have Q&As and things of that nature. It's really a space for the community, but also for filmmakers to have a viable form of distribution on chain that they may not have previously had. And if you're going to raise, a couple $1 million through NFTs and through, decentralized crowdfunding, our hope is that through the cinema, you have a viable form to participate in that recoupment through ticket sales and wearables and merch and all that cool stuff that comes along with the metaverse.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone isn't already, go follow Ian and check out the previews of his cinema that he's building because it's amazing. I can't wait to screen CALLADITA there for all of you. It's gonna be very fun to do metaverse screenings. And thank you, Ian, for coming up and sharing. And does anyone else? So I see Unigens, you had your hand up. Please, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks, Miguel and Jordan for having me. I just popped in, and I definitely popped into the right conversation. Man, Simon, I hear you on that. I was listening to you talk about sort of crowdfunding a script and all that stuff, and what's interesting, I think, with NFTs, is finding an interesting use case for it. Like right now, the space is maturing. We're seeing PFPs become bigger projects and stuff like that, and it seems like the obvious next use case is part of the creator economy is like people with IP, original IP, using it to raise money to produce whatever they want. And usually that's film or TV or something like that. But I think the problem happens is this is all based on you selling out your project, right? Or like what happens if you sell 20 or 30% of your project and you've made all these wild promises that I'm going to make a film, I'm going to do a TV series, I'm going to do a series of books, whatever. I think you just have to think about sort of like modular storytelling. It's like, what can you afford to make with the capital that you have? Because the chances are that you're probably not going to sell out. And I think that's sort of part of my conversation. The other thing I wanted to say is that, legacy media has been broken forever. Like one of the worst investments you can make is in indie film. I've worked in the indie film space for 10, 15 years at this point. I do mostly commercials now because they actually pay you money. But if you have any ambition of making a short, making an indie, like you're not going to make your money back. It is a total loss, and you're doing it because you love doing it, and you're paying off those credit card bills for like the next decade. I've made shorts I've shot on 35mm film. I've helped friends make features. It's a very, very expensive medium to tell a story against. And that is why legacy media kind of has a stranglehold on it, because it takes a lot of capital. But I do think NFTs offer creators an interesting opportunity to sort of crowdfund in a way your project. But I do think you have to think bigger than just film, or more broad is the right word, because again, if you don't raise the capital you need, you're kind of shafting your investors, right? And I think one of the biggest things that we're doing, like the Unigens project, is basically, instead of us making a film, we're basically building a narrative world. Because if you think about it, when Disney bought Marvel and when Disney bought, Star Wars, they bought a cinematic universe. They didn't just buy a film; they bought the entire IP, and the IP was spun out into countless other revenue streams, countless movies, films, books, whatever, right? So I feel like if you have an idea of just making a movie, you're not thinking big enough and you're not thinking about it correctly, because when you sell your IP to a studio, if you're like a screenwriter or an indie filmmaker and you want to sell your project, it's like, specifically if you're a screenwriter, your hope is to just sell the IP, to which that person, whoever's buying it, they're buying your characters, your universe, your story, and any subsequent right to spin out any other stories based on that IP you sold. So you're really just selling everything. And it's really a broken model for creators. And all of us, I've been a screenwriter. I'm in the WGA. I've been in the WGA for about 2 years now. And I thought it was like going to be a lightning rod to my career. And all I've learned is that everyone else is also waiting to sell their screenplay. Like you climb a mountain and there's a million more on the other side. And yeah, I just don't think I just think that this, it seems like we're all talking about the same thing. It's just finding the right use for the use case. And I do think that this is the next step, is using it as a tool to build your community, build your audience, and make capital to make the project you want. But just make sure that, I think my personal opinion is, make sure that if you're making promises, think about it in a modular way, because if we sell out our project, that'd be fucking killer to make a movie. But what if we can't afford that? What if we sell 30%? It's like, well, maybe we can do an AR experience. Maybe we can do a small indie game. If the story in the world is broad enough, there's parts of the world I feel like you can pull out and make smaller stories based on that, because that's what these fucking universes are that people are selling off, So anyways,
a point on what you just said there, right, too, which is, you made a great point. It's like, if they buy your script, like, great. But even if they buy your script, as you know, there's a very good chance it never gets made. Like a lot of people that are kind of new in this space don't remember the spec script heyday, when you had studios, production companies buying up as many specs as they could, but mostly for one reason: so they could shelve that script and develop it on their own. And that's exactly what I warn everyone here in this space that is developing IP, that they're going to say they're going to turn into a movie or show that doesn't have experience. Please do not give your IP exclusively away to any type of studio or production company, regardless of if they say they're Web3 first. Do not do it, because they're all on the side right now looking about how they can develop their own IP internally, the same way they would have developed their own scripts So be very careful on giving your IP of your NFT to outside exclusively, please, because it's going to be exactly like the spec script heyday is what's happening here.
I agree 100%. Absolutely. I feel like, and if you have any ambition of just being a screenwriter, not a producer, not a filmmaker, your whole goal is to sell your screenplay, and it's really, you are getting shafted so hard. If there's any successful, if your screenplay has legs, and the way your labor as a writer has been devalued over the last 40 years, you are not making enough money for your product, because they are going to churn it out a million different ways if it has any legs. So yeah, anyways, I'll stop. It seems like there's a lot of conversation, so I'm going to...
I want to jump in for a second, just say that I love this point. And I certainly love, the talking about it on a bigger scope. But sometimes I think it's good to just, like, if you go to the website for my short film that we minted last week, I basically say I'm not making any promises. I'm going to under promise and over deliver. And what I am going to promise is I'm going to continue to build community in this ecosystem. That's my promise. And I think that, do I want to think bigger? Do I want to think out of the box? Am I trying to be innovative? Absolutely. And I'm so grateful for all the bigger brains than mine that are in here also, trying to innovate in this space. But I also don't think that, that I don't want anyone to get discouraged from saying, hey, you know what? Like, I'm going to do it like Jordan did, on a shoestring budget, the same way we've always done it in indie film. I've done it for so many years. I've done it in so many ways that I knew exactly what type of film that I could make. I knew the cinematic quality that I could put out on a shoestring budget. I did that with some fiat, and I brought it in here, and we sold it for 4 ETH. Do I think that it would have been awesome to have been, in double digits, and maybe one day somebody else's short form piece will be double digits? Yeah, I do. I see that coming. But I don't want anyone to be discouraged on taking baby steps here. I consider mine like a case study, and on that I'm going to build. And at the same time, I definitely I get excited about all the different ways that we can use utility here, and and innovate and create experience. But I think one of the things that I really admire about what Nuclear Nerds is doing is this slow pace of building experience and building community, and that's really what the NFT Filmmaker Squad is about. And I really love your points, and I think that they're awesome, discussions to continue to have moving forward. I just had to jump in there, Miguel, and I want to throw it back to you.
No, of course, but I think maybe do we need to start wrapping it up, Jordan? Probably.
Absolutely, because I know poor Marty's had his hand up, so definitely let's do that. And listen, guys, if you're enjoying this conversation, we've been having it for weekly for a year. We've got come back on Wednesday, come back on and now Saturdays, because we do like to dig in, and to have you guys come up on stage and challenge ideas and bring new ideas and innovative ideas. This is how we all learn and grow. So yeah, poor Marty.
Hey, so oh man, listening to everybody gave me a couple points that I just wanted to I guess address. And I think Ed, you were asking a little while ago about what is, how do you think bigger with using NFTs for film? And I really think it all, one, it depends on, I guess it depends on the type of project it is, and also what stage the project is. If you have some people might have content or films already prepared, and there's you can give access to the film or extra content around the film. But I think what's really fun is when you haven't started a project and using NFTs to give access to all the different spaces in production. I think Unigens was saying something similar to that, where you can give I'm an animator and something I'm working on, I'll be giving access for people to get avatars for, but that's,
Yeah,
that's
no,
it.
I think, and I agree with you. I maybe want to be a little bit clear. It wasn't so much about the process. I definitely am down for that. I think that's a giving for me.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely easy for me. It's more after the result. I'm just like, okay,
Right.
how do you build
When
after
it's
the
done.
Yes.
I think there's that brings me to the next thing. I guess the last thing that I wanted to say was just there's this concept. I don't know if anybody's heard of it or it's called transmedia storytelling, right? And it's basically like, if you look at Star Wars, they have the game, they have the movie, they have the short films, they have the cartoons, and they attack their content across dozens of platforms, in real life platforms, experiences, AR filters. They have the toys, and they all add to the same story. And I think when you use NFTs, you like, unbeknownst to what we are thinking, we're all attacking Web3 in a transmedia way, where we're creating content and giving access, across different platforms. I think when we start to, really embrace that idea of using like what NFTs actually provide, even like the blockchain, what they provide us, we can use those different tools to create new experiences. Like there's a protocol. I don't know if people have heard of IFTTT, but it's if this and that. But there's one for blockchain, and it's basically saying, it's called how.xyz. You can take actions that happen on a blockchain and create triggers, and you can use your NFTs to triggers. You can get information from wallets to create triggers that you can use. If your NFT sells, people using it for Discord bots, and to send emails and to send tweets. There's so many different ways that you can use NFTs in the blockchain to enhance experiences across the different platforms. And I think that's where we start to see how we can use NFTs to build these bigger and better experiences than simply I think access and inclusion into the development process is dope, and especially like with specifically you, Ed, with the claymation, and I do animation, and I do a lot with avatars, and I think it's fire as hell to be able to include people into that process and creating characters and helping design and iterate upon all of that shit. But I think when we actually use NFTs and the blockchain for what it is, that's where we can really build. You know what I mean? So I think digging into transmedia storytelling and what that is really a step forward into like really blowing up whatever project. That doesn't even matter what kind of project it is. Digging into that concept will open up your mind. And with that, I'm done.
All right. Thank you very much. I think we need to wrap it up, everyone, but this was amazing. Susie, I see that you have your hand up, and I really don't like leaving without hearing everyone. So if you have a point that you can make quickly, then please, we'd love to hear it. Otherwise, we'll be here next week.
Yeah, sure. I'll make it quick. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a few things real quick. So in terms of thinking builder and thinking bigger and transmedia, I would think about world building. And so that can help, and surfacing the collective intelligence. That's a lot of what we do over at the Digital Storytelling Lab based out of Columbia University. So that's number one. Number two, this is one of the reasons why I so appreciate Jordan and her role in the space is talking about baby steps. A lot of Web 2 culture is growth, exponential growth, investors, and a misalignment of incentives. We can leverage Web3 tools to build a world where all of us thrive. And so what I'm seeing is very much of these Web2 hallmarks that aren't actually going to flip the model. They're going to actually just undermine what we're trying to do. And then in terms of a lot of the projects that were shared today, and anybody who's thinking about projects, the one thing I would hope people are considering is I think I'm hearing about community and community decision making, essentially governance. And one thing that I think I might be hearing is token-based governance. And token-based governance is not going to lead to inclusive and equitable structures. That's actually going to perpetuate what's already happening. And if you are really interested in wanting to learn more about it, Vitalik actually has a great post out there about token governance. And with a lot of the DAOs that I've been putting my hand in, this is something that they're trying to think through because it's not effective and it's not sustainable. And last but not least, when we are talking about changing the space, whether it's the filmmaking industry or otherwise, if you are a quote unquote acting as a studio where you're bringing in people and projects, I would very much ask you to look at the diverse voices and perspectives that you're bringing in. Are they all male? Are they all white? is there a woman or non-binary person on the team but is not in a leadership position? And so I think about when we talk about inclusivity, it's not just having one or two people on a team, it's making sure those people are in leadership positions. And that's how we get to equity, and that's how we move towards justice. I have a few more things to say, but I will, I know we're running out of time. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody who's here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susie. Those were great points, and we hope to see you here next week to continue that conversation, because it's definitely an important one. We'd love to chat more about it. But today, that's it for today. I think I gotta run to a meeting. Thank you so much, everyone who came. It was an amazing space and amazing discussion about the future of cinema and film and TV via Web3. And yeah, thank you so much. I learned a lot, and that's what it's all about.
And I'll let Miguel run off to his meeting. Thank you, Miguel. This was such a cool space today, and I loved it. I love sitting back and listening to you guys. If if you're new to the NFT filmmaking squad, and just know that we are here with Miguel on Mondays. We have our long established Wednesdays at 1. So if you want to come through on Wednesday this week, we're definitely going down the distribution rabbit hole. And then we are launching on Saturdays a third space with Jason Jarnick. And we look forward to seeing you guys in any of those spaces. Find us in the Discord. It's in my link tree. And with that, you guys have an incredible day, incredible night, and let's go. Let's fucking go.